What's my new favorite Christmas movie?
Do you like avocados?
Savage Harbor, of course. Savage Harbor is a 1988 action movie from director Carl Monson. The movie opens on the beach. Some human traffickers are bringing in new inventory for the evil Mr. Harry. You know he's super evil because he's wearing a cornicello necklace, which also means he owns at least one IROC. His associate Jim is nervous about today's exchange. Mr. Harry doesn't care, he just needs more women for his clients. Jim goes to talk to the other henchman, Hank. Hank looks like if Gallagher decided to get a job at a loading dock instead of doing comedy. Back at the car, Anne is trying her best to not break her ankles while wearing high heels in sand. Anne is Mr. Harry's main squeeze. She doesn't approve of what's going on. The delivery men get close to the shore and... Is this their first time doing this? Why did they try to get out of the boat so early? Jim notices something's wrong, so he starts shooting. Maybe he could have waited a minute, there might be a good explanation. Nah.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
This guy jumps into the safety of a raft. Anne gets scared and runs off. The guy in the boat gets barbecued. Anne makes it to the road and tries to flag down some help. With everyone on the boat dead, they go to leave but notice that Anne is gone. They walk about 5 feet to look for her and give up. Anne, of course, gets picked up by a super creep. Meanwhile, a couple of sailors on shore leave head to the local bar. This is Bill and Joe. The duo are off for Christmas break. How do we know it's Christmas? Inside the bar is an assortment of Christmas decorations, and the stripper is wearing Santa hat pasties that I can't show you because YouTube. Bill goes to get a drink, but Joe has to go do something. Creepy guy pulls over and oh no. Anne tries to leave, but he doesn't let her. Joe hears this and springs into action. He grabs the creep and saves the girl. Anne is positively starstruck by that Stallone energy. Cue the love music. She's so grateful, she offers to buy him a drink. Walking to the bar, Joe decides to use his best pickup line.
Do you like avocados?
What?
Now that he's on shore leave, Bill is looking for love. The stripper gives him a number to call. He calls it, and oh, it's the stripper Roxy. Joe takes Anne back to her friend's house and moves in for an artistic smooch. Completely overwhelmed, she invites him upstairs for you-know-what, Parcheesi. After a healthy romp, Joe and Anne go on a date montage. Roxy brings Bill back to her place and makes him some dinner.
How many eggs can you eat?
I can eat 40 eggs in an hour.
Is he related to the detective from Gore and Venice? Bill offers to help.
Oh, why don't you just use my toaster?
We didn't have a toaster.
Oh.
Nothing turns a woman on like toast. The next day, I think, Joe tells Anne he doesn't care about her past. All he cares about is their future. So we get a montage of their blooming love. They then have some fully clothed sex. Roxy's regretting her night with Bill. How is it the next day with Joe and Anne, but still the previous night with Bill?
I'm not really much for picking up guys.
Don't worry, neither am I. Joe goes back into his sexy avocado talk. He tells her he wants to retire and buy an avocado ranch with her, which they immediately do. Although Joe and Bill still have to go back out to sea for 6 months before he can retire. Mr. Harry is beating up one of the girls. She tells him where he can find Anne. Hank and Slim go to get Anne. The duo track her down at the grocery store. She leaves the cart and runs away. Slim grabs her and forces her into the car.
What happened to the food?
They take her to Mr. Harry's boat. Anne's trying to explain to Harry that her life has changed. In the past week, she's kicked her drug habit, got engaged, and is getting ready to move to Mexico after purchasing an avocado farm. She's had a busy week. Mr. Harry isn't too happy about this, so he gets her hooked back on the junk again and makes her turn tricks for him. 6 months later, Bill and Joe are back in town.
Yeah, you've had that home cooking, home screwing look in your eyes for the last 8 months.
8 months? But I thought it just said 6 months. Time in this movie doesn't seem to matter. The duo arrive at Christmas time, go away for 6 months, and when they return, it's still Christmas time. What is this, a Hallmark movie? Anne is no longer there.
Oh, love me, Joe, love me.
Joe goes looking for Anne, but she's gone. A different girl, Jenny, is in her place now. Joe goes to talk to the neighbors, but ew.
I'm busy. Come back later. And bring me some more towels.
Defeated, Joe goes to talk to the manager. He checks the register but doesn't get any info. Depressed, Joe's going home when he sees another prostitute getting beat up. Oh boy! Here's my chance to get a new girlfriend! He beats up the guys, but it turns out this girl likes being manhandled by her pimp. Joe meets up with Bill. He tells him that Anne is gone. The next day, Joe goes to talk to Jenny again.
Beauty, what do you want?
I'm interested.
Thought I told you you had to call first.
867-5309. She tells him that Mr. Harry will kill her if she talks. Joe's walking home, so Slim and Hank give him a message from Mr. Harry. This surely will get him to stop and not make him think that he's on to something. Beaten and confused, Joe finally snaps.
Annie! 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 Annie!
Over at the bar, this lady is being very supportive of her granddaughter. Joe arrives beaten and defeated. Joe gets a call and goes to meet Jenny. She tells him that Anne is tied to Mr. Harry. She then goes home, but Slim's waiting for her.
It's something sweet. Chocolate.
He gives her a good beating because he knows that something's up. Why'd you have to hit me? I just wanted chocolate. Back in the week when Anne was kicking her habit, Joe remembers her talking about her dad. He easily tracks him down and goes to ask him some questions. He tells Joe Anne ran away from home when she was a teenager and he hasn't seen her since. And now the Anne search montage. Bill patches things up with Roxy. The two go to the apartments and threaten the manager to get info. They find where the henchmen hang out, and it's fighting time! The bad guys try to escape, but Joe gets in the back of the truck. Miscellaneous third guy gets kicked out and taken for a drag. They round the corner, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't planned. The bad guy knocks off Joe, and they get away. It's now instantly night. Joe and Bill are in the park and run into Anne turning tricks.
Please, honey, come on.
What are you...
Joe!
She runs away right into traffic. Oh no, she's dead! But also still blinking. Hey, maybe call an ambulance? Nah, revenge!
Eye for an eye.
He goes and borrows a gun from the bartender. He gets Jenny to help him. Slim and Hank chase after them. Joe stops and they go to hide. Slim goes after Joe, and Hank goes after Jenny. Joe and Slim get into a shootout. Slim hides behind the safety of a chain link fence. Dude, you're not that thin. Jenny hides in an old bus. Slim puts himself in a bad spot and Joe kills him. Hank finds Jenny and somehow she doesn't hear him coming. Joe arrives and, she died? How? Hank thinks glass is a good cover, but finds out the hard way that it isn't. Joe finds Jenny. Oh, she's still alive, but badly hurt. She tells him where to find Mr. Harry. It's the final showdown. Mr. Harry tries to apologize, but gets exactly what he deserves.
Hear me? I'm sorry, I'm sorry! No! Sorry doesn't cut it.
Oh, dude, he shot him in the dick.
The next day, Joe finds out that Anne is still alive. He tells her after some serious detox that everything will be okay. Bill goes to see Roxy and tells her he's retiring so she can stop stripping. Bill tells Roxy they're going to join Joe and Anne on the avocado farm. Boy, it's a good thing they're going to Mexico. There's a few murders that might get investigated out here. Anne tells Joe what he's wanted to hear all this time.
I love avocados.
Oh, those crazy kids and their avocados. Is it still Christmas time? Savage Harbor was shot in and around San Pedro, California. Director Carl Monson was originally an actor in movies like Booby Trap and The Takers. While working on those films, he desperately wanted to be known as a serious filmmaker. He was doing movies like Please Don't Eat My Mother, but wanted to get away from that kind of movie. He wrote a script called One Perfect Rose, and went looking for financing to get the film made. While his initial backers liked the concept, they, as they often do, wanted him to make some changes to make it more marketable. So he took his serious script and added in some salacious content. The name then changed to Death Feud. He hired various character actors for the film, like Anthony Caruso and Nicholas Worth, as well as Christopher Mitchum and Frank Stallone for the leads. This way, the cover of the poster could read, Stallone, MITCHUM, with their first names in a much smaller font. Christopher Mitchum was the son of Robert Mitchum, one of the most well-known and well-regarded character actors of his time. The director has a cameo in the film as the Doctor. Lisa Loring was hired as the stripper Roxy. She was the original Wednesday Addams in the Addams Family. She was having a very difficult time in the industry finding work. So bad, in fact, she was doing makeup in adult films under the pseudonym Maxine Factor. One day while filming, her boyfriend Jerry Butler showed up on set. This set Mitchum off because Butler had starred in hundreds of pornos, and he was dating the woman who was supposed to be his love interest in the movie. He told the director he refused to kiss her, which is why they have very little contact in the movie. Mitchum frequently argued with the director. At one point, he yelled, "You only hired me for my name!" The director countered, "No, I only hired you because of your father's name." Ouch. Lisa Loring's life continued to be difficult. She married Jerry Butler as long as he swore that he was going to stop making porn. He said he would, but continued for years without her knowledge. She later found out and they divorced in 1992. Butler continued in porn until 1998. He died in January 2018 of pancreatic cancer. Loring made a few movies after this, like Iced, but never really took off. Sadly, she died just recently, in January of 2023, from complications due to a stroke. She was 64. This was Carl Monson's last movie. He sadly died of heart failure not too long after Savage Harbor was released. Greta Blackburn played Jenny. You may remember her from the 1988 film Party Line, where she murdered Karen Mayo Chandler, who was Anne in Savage Harbor. They shot the movie with no permits. This meant they frequently got visits from the police telling them to shut everything down. The director would often talk his way out of it by saying he left their permit in another briefcase, which sometimes worked, but other times didn't. This made the shoot go on longer than they initially planned. When filming started, the actors were prepared and knew their lines. As things progressed and it got messy, they started improvising, and a large part of the dialogue in the film was just stuff they made up on the spot. Although the avocado thing was in the script. While filming, the producers kept showing up on set and demanding more action and more nudity. This changed the tone of the film to lean more towards exploitation than what the film was supposed to be initially.
Why don't you come back later and play with my pussycat?
When the film was released, they changed the name to Savage Harbor, although in some areas, it was still called Death Feud. Frank Stallone was a musician who was taking roles in films to put food on the table, as he put it. He didn't want to be an action star, but these productions always offered him a significant amount of money, and he felt like he couldn't pass them up. Even on some of the films that had next to no budget, they paid him most of the budget just to get the Stallone name on the poster. After the film was finished, he took a copy to his brother Sylvester's house, and they watched it together. 90 minutes of non-stop laughter. Frank said he was in pain after it was over, with Sylvester saying that this was the worst film he'd ever seen. Frank said he gets it, though. These are the movies where a lot of actors, actresses, and crew get work experience, and sometimes move on to bigger things. Look at all the people who worked with Roger Corman. Savage Harbor is a blast. It's a bad film, make no mistake, but it's the right kind of bad. The director wanted to make a good movie, and either due to his own incompetence or the demands of the producers, we ended up with an unintentional comedy.
Bitch!
Stallone said he knew his limitations as an actor, and while movies like this were indeed bad, they kept him working. I know plenty of people goof on Frank, but you can learn a lot about his history in the documentary, Stallone, Frank that is. I reviewed the documentary a while back. It showed he was a musician long before his brother was an actor, and how he wasn't trying to emulate his brother, he was just taking the jobs as they presented themselves. On a personal note, I had the pleasure of meeting Frank at the premiere of his documentary, and he was a very humble, nice guy. I told him honestly that I knew more about his movies than his music career, and my favorite film of his was Terror in Beverly Hills, where he played Special Agent Hack Stone. He laughed and said, "Why?" I hope Vinegar Syndrome restores that one like they did with Savage Harbor. Savage Harbor is a hilarious film. It's the kind of ridiculousness you see in movies like The Room, with its borderline insane tonal shifts. The pacing is fast and the film is never dull. The last half hour is pretty much all action. It's the best Christmas movie about a former junkie prostitute who falls in love with a sailor that murders her former captors and then moves to Mexico to run an avocado farm.
I love avocados.
Do you like avocados?
What?
Just a thought.